Greetings, everyone. Happy International HR Day. Today's our day. On behalf of the Board of AHRMIO, which is the Association of Human Resources Management in International Organizations, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to this panel discussion on the topic HR Shaping the New Future. Today, we are celebrating International HR Day to recognize the global contributions of HR professionals worldwide. Today, we're giving a huge shout out to people professionals all over the world. You've gone above and beyond to support your people and organizations while working to create better workplaces around the world and shape a better future for all. You can join in the celebrations by using the hashtags International HR Day and AHRMIO on social media to share why you support human resources in their critical mission. Today's event is brought to you by AHRMIO in partnership with the European Organization for the Safety of Air Navigation, or commonly known as Eurocontrol. Eurocontrol is one of the many member organizations of AHRMIO and has kindly offered the platform for this event out of their Luxembourg office. My name is Danijela Milic, and I am human resources professional in the United Nations system and serve on the board of AHRMIO. I have worked in the broader UN system for 20 years in various organizations and locations, and I'm honored to be the moderator for today's panel discussion. The discussion will be recorded, and we will share the link with you after the event. A little brief word about AHRMIO. AHRMIO is dedicated to furthering the management of people in the not-for-profit international organizations in the governmental and non-governmental sectors. We seek to strengthen the development and effectiveness of all those charged with the responsibility for people management, be they human resources experts, line managers, or business leaders. We also partner with private sector and academia, and it's this trinity that's been a trademark of AHRMIO, where we actually believe that we have a lot to share and a lot to learn from one another. So this multi-sector partnership is also on display today, with our distinguished panelists coming from the international organization, private sector, and academia. So now please allow me to introduce our four fantastic panelists. The first panelist is Martha Helena Lopez, who is the Assistant Secretary General for Human Resources in the United Nations. She's responsible for the strategic leadership and direction of the United Nations Human Resources, covering a workforce of more than 35,000 staff dispersed globally. She is the senior authority for HR policy and provides policy development, program management, oversight, and direction in HR functions, including strategic human capital planning in the organization and also across the United Nations Common System. She's also the chair of the UN System Mental Health and Wellbeing Implementation Board, which spans some 30 organizations of the UN system. Martha Helena brings with her a wealth of senior level international experience in HR management. And prior to her current role, Martha Helena has served as a director of HR at the United Nations Development Program, or UNDP, where her policies and programs reached more than 170 country offices. And she has also worked for UNICEF. Martha Helena began her career as a national staff member in her native Colombia, where she worked with both UNICEF and World Food Program. Welcome, Martha. We're also joined by Robin Lewis from Cigna, one of AHRMIO sponsors. Robin leads the HR teams for Cigna's Europe and global segments businesses, the Middle East and Africa region, and the global service operation team across Cigna's international markets. During his career, he has focused on working with leaders and teams to deliver optimal organizational performance through transformational business change. He has specialized in HR strategy, M&A, organizational design, and leadership team coaching. Robin is a qualified executive coach. Before joining Cigna in 2012, Robin held senior roles in financial services and retail, and prior to that in HR strategy consulting. And today, Robin is joining us from Winchester, right outside of London in the United Kingdom. So welcome, Robin. Our next panelist is Dr. Anna Tavis, who is a professor and academic director of Human Capital Management Department at the New York University School of Professional Studies, a senior fellow with the Conference Board and the academic in residence with the executive networks. Dr. Tavis has been named to Thinkers 50 radar for the year 2020. She's a former executive editor of People Plus Strategy Journal and is currently an associate editor of Workforce Solutions Review. Dr. Tavis publishes regularly in the business media and has been quoted by the Washington Post, Bloomberg, the Human Resources Executive, Training Magazine, and so forth. Dr. Tavis's Harvard Business Review article with Peter Capelli, HR Goes Agile, and the Performance Management Revolution were reprinted in Harvard Business Review's must-read Definitive Management Ideas of the Year in 2016 and 2018. She's currently working on a book titled Humans at Work, which is scheduled to be published in 2022. Prior to joining NYU faculty, Dr. Tavis navigated a diverse global career in academia, business, and consulting. In business, she held senior positions with Nokia, United Technology, and the AIG Investments. She received her Ph.D. in comparative literature from Princeton University and executive MBA in international business from the University of South Carolina. Welcome, Dr. Tavis. And we're also joined by Thierry BARIL from Airbus. He joined the group Airbus in 2003, and since 2012, he has been named the Chief Human Resources Officer and a member of the Airbus Executive Committee. He has supported many cycles of the world leader in aeronautics, space, and defense industry, anticipation of changes in the business model, internationalization strategy, management of exponential growth, and of course, the unprecedented crises such as COVID-19. Prior to joining Airbus, Thierry was the Executive Vice President of Human Resources at Eurocopter, which is now known as the Airbus helicopters. He has held HR leadership positions in Bocard SA, Alstom Energy Group, General Electric, and Alcatel Space headquarters, among others. The search for meaning has always guided Thierry Baril's career, and he is working in a pragmatic and determined manner to unite some 130,000 employees around a common corporate culture that is constantly being built. And Thierry is joining us from Toulouse in France. So welcome, Thierry. Now let us get started with our conversation with our exceptional panel members and tackle the theme of HR shaping the new future. So we will be taking you on a journey. We'll be talking about teams. We're going to be talking about leadership. Then we'll get on to individuals and talk about employee experience, and then conclude with the role of HR and what can we do and who do we want to be. So let us start here by really underlining that what connects us across various sectors, be they public, private, or academia, be it in different countries around the globe, be it across successes or failures in business, is really the people. So over a year ago, we were faced with COVID playing the same role in our world, throughout the world, but it has felt very different in some instances. So may I invite you, Martha Helena, to kick us off and to share with us how did the leadership and different players in our organization come to table to collectively envision and reimagine what has to happen to get our most valuable asset, that is our people, to keep well, to feel supported and included, to keep hope alive, to keep walking the talk that we preach to our clients, and to make sure their trust in us would keep them going strong and deliver on our business promise. So over to you, Martha Helena.
Thank you, Danijela. Thank you, AHRMIO, and happy International Day of HR. This is a wonderful opportunity to reflect not only on a year, but it's nearly 18 months on what we have learned, how we have broken barriers, how we have found ways to be more agile, and how we have supported our teams front and center. This has been a period of a truly global UN team effort. And I just would like to say that we have worked together like never before. In most of our organizations, crises and fragilities of all kinds is the name of our game. At the United Nations, we are focused on taking care of others in need. Every day around the world, UN staff undergo stress, witness tragedy, and shoulder a great deal of responsibility and pressure, including matters of life and death. When COVID hit us, it was the first time that we truly had a global crisis affecting each and every one of us. We are used to crisis, but not one that impacts on headquarters as well as all our field locations almost simultaneously. It made us appreciate and reflect on the deeper value of our people, their well-being, and the safety of our workplace. During the crisis, we had to swiftly grasp and understand the diversity of impacts brought on by the pandemic. We had to reflect on the agility of our policies and approaches and their fit for purpose. We had to learn whom amongst our personnel were the most vulnerable. And we had to ensure that we had the necessary support mechanisms in place. We knew the well-being of our personnel was utmost priority, no matter where they were in the world, and we didn't have all the answers. It had to be an organizational team effort to find solutions. We didn't always get it right, and we learned along the way. We could not remove all the stressors that our personnel were experiencing, but we could work out what we could control and give some control to our teams about how they could best manage their work in this new environment, and giving the flexibility to allow this to happen as much as possible. The importance of people-centered and inclusive approach is one of our guiding principles and became even more important during this period and will continue to be so in the future. We had a true balancing act to work with. And the word challenge doesn't even describe it. Our people had to take care of our clients. Our teams had to be well to take care of others. We had to figure it out to ensure no one fell behind. We discovered that isolation can do to our teams and their families. And the effect of a multi-generational workforce with each having different needs, concerns, vulnerabilities, loneliness, and all while being brave and dedicated to our mission. And so many being away from their countries, from their families. This was truly a global UN team effort. Each and everyone played a role, and the sense of the UN as a family was embedded in a way like never before. It was about supporting the world through this crisis while supporting each other and our families. We had to work as a team, pull down barriers, structures. We were all on the same playing field, working together as never before. The Secretary General and senior managers across the UN system have been strongly committed to the mental health and well-being of our UN personnel. They have taken a leadership role, communicating regularly and paving the way for action that has been needed. In such a complex and multifaceted crisis, we immediately saw that everyone was a leader. During the period, we focused on communications, ensuring that everyone had a full understanding of what we were doing for our personnel and their families. This included a dedicated website in all official languages, frequent broadcast messages to all staff, and regular online events. Managers were encouraged to exercise flexibility to support personnel's well-being, mental health, and work-life balance. We had task forces set up to make sure that no one was left behind. For example, a domestic violence task force, a mental health leadership team, an occupational and health and safety team. We increased the number of counselors across the unit system, and we saw a boom in telehealth and telecounseling through our insurance providers. We have developed resources for managers and leaders, which we are happy to share with each and every one of you. And we established COVID-related adjustments to our policies and practices with feedback loop mechanism, ensuring it was working. Danijela, you just asked me about trust. Along the way, we discovered and learned very effective ways of building lasting trust, the agility to foresee what was coming our way, and the importance of our people's voice to be our guiding light. I think that we as leaders realized that there was no one size fits all to build trust in the workplace. Rather, it requires a robust but flexible strategy. We need to be transparent in our communication, including when we don't know the answer, how we are making decisions. We need to do what we say we will and be open to feedback and ideas from all and within the UN system. As we move forward from the world's initial shock toward COVID and realize that this would not be a marathon, but a sprint, we had to ensure we did not lose focus. Instead, we have been thinking about the next stages and what would be the next normal. In many ways, we have introduced opportunities, and we are now more in the conversations about mental health and well-being, and continue to strive to find ways to ensure we have a healthy workplace for a better world. We have introduced also a variety of online dialogues and opportunities to exchange knowledge. We introduced the poetry and art into our language. Thanks, Danijela, for leading us also on this and for supporting an amazing initiative. We created a psychosocial, safer workplace to allow for more open exchanges. We have increased the trust that we are all in this together, and we will take care of us together. We have been reflecting on how the past 18 months can map a non-crisis mode, and how we can bring that experience to our future everyday life. There has been a tremendous shift in mind, and we continue to encourage our personnel to stay highly engaged and keep conversing with us, share their ideas, and build together a future like no other. Let me close by saying that effective and inclusive leadership has never been so relevant than today. But I'll leave that to my fellow panelists to explore this theme further. So thank you, Danijela. Thank you, AHRMIO, for having me, and over to you.
Thank you, Martha Helena. What an opening. Thank you very much for this deep reflection on our people and all the team efforts that have taken place. I think you said something about working together as never before, and what particularly resonated with me was that people voices being our guiding light. I find that very, very inspirational. Thank you very much for that. And then you said something about the effective leadership and inclusive leadership has never been so relevant today, which is really a nice segue to my next question. So now, Robin, let me turn over to you. Cigna is a global health service company with a team of 70,000 or so employees around the world, coupled with an extensive global network of over 1.6 million hospitals. So this is a challenging mission in any time, and in particular in a global health pandemic. So could you tell us what people, leaders, and organizations must do to meaningfully include, engage, support, empower employees to keep the mission and purpose intact and alive in the times of crisis and otherwise? Over to you, Robin.
Thank you, Danijela. And first of all, it's an honor and a privilege to be with you all here today and to talk on this panel and to share some views and some experiences. And Martha Helena, what a powerful message you bring to the discussion. Thank you for that. That's truly humbling to listen to some of the experiences that have shaped the past year from your perspective. Across Cigna, I mean, we've obviously got some insights, both in terms of the way we work with our own organization, with our own staff globally, but equally we bring insights and share observations from our client groups, again, globally, and some of the transformational initiatives and changes that we've all been experiencing over this past 15 or 16 months in time of crisis. And I think one thing that's clear to all of us is that leadership and management generally has gone through a fundamental transformation over these past months. And one of the reasons for this, I think, just to reflect a little bit on the driver, and obviously we all know the context that we're working in, people are feeling very, very stressed and very uncertain. As HR professionals, we're having more conversations now about mental health, about anxiety, about stress-related issues. For sure. And I think the role of the leader and manager in dealing with this has been absolutely changed. So if I look back at the sort of task focus, the productivity focus, the getting the job done, the focus on objectives, which is still all important in terms of our business results and outcomes across many different organizations, the role now of in effect, at Cigna, we're looking at it from a sort of whole person health perspective. It's not just about physical health, it's about mental health, it's about how you feel as an individual. And what does that mean for the leader? Because I think this comes back to the sort of fundamental question of how can we as leaders and how can we as HR professionals help shape that future? We can help create more certainty by focusing on some core principles and core messages. Fundamental to that is creating a sense of purpose and mission. And one thing that I do see across many different organizations, and this is absolutely true within Cigna, is that the staff, the teams, the organizations, the business units that really thrive and that really are truly resilient are the ones that are absolutely rallying around a core sense of purpose and a core sense of mission and values. So at every level in organizations, the role of the manager, the leader, to bring that to life, to help people really truly understand what their role is, what their task is, and how that fits with the overall organization, vision, and mission is fundamentally important. And that's all about connecting. It's all about feeling connected. We don't have all the answers. Martha Helena expressed this absolutely wonderfully. We don't have the answers to all of the issues and problems that face us. But what we can do is we can create clarity in terms of communication, in terms of process, in terms of how we support all of our individual colleagues and teams. So again, going back to my theme of whole person health and how we can really sort of embrace the well-being of the organization it's not just about how you do your job, it's how you support your teams. It's about how you connect and how you engage. So very, very specifically in that, in Cigna, what we've been working on is transformational change across sort of 3 major dimensions. One is who we are. So that's really about the culture, it's about the purpose, it's mission. And really making sure that that is the sort of overarching rallying call that we would really use to centralize all of our thoughts around transformational change, about supporting people, about building out our HR policies, processes, and practices. Then absolutely, as we've gone through this rather difficult period, and increasingly difficult from an uncertainty perspective, as we've dealt with COVID and the pandemic, the 2 key changes for us: how we work and how we connect. And how we work, really embracing flexibility and enabling people to really be comfortable in how they want to operate. There's a lot of talk about the hybrid workplace. And we do see that there is an opportunity to accelerate the future of work here. And I think that, you know, we mustn't just focus on the negatives. We need to look at the positives and look at the opportunities to say, how do we really create that environment where people can really thrive, really wherever they are globally, or whether they're working in an office environment, or whether they're working remotely or virtually. So how we work is critically important. Then how we connect and how we support is more about the engagement, more about communication. We can't over communicate. And I think that this is fundamentally important to how we operate at Cigna and how we work with our client organizations and how we see effective management across multiple ecosystems that we're working with. So communication is all important. And then absolutely it comes down to the focus on well-being and employee health. So of course, we've got much more now in terms of digital delivery and online delivery and access to healthcare. That kind of goes without saying, in a way, that that's accelerated massively over this past year. But an understanding from a leadership perspective that to build resilience, to build well-being, to build a real sense of engagement in teams, that there needs to be that true focus on not just you as a person doing a job, fulfilling a task, but you as a human being, and how we can really support your well-being in terms of that full employee life cycle and full experience. So that for me is critically important. And I think within that, of course, there's much more that we can explore in terms of the role of HR going forward. But I think for me, Danijela, that is pretty much the sort of the overarching themes that I wanted to initially bring to this discussion. So I hand it back to you at that stage.
Thank you very much, Robin, and through your experience and through the environment you work in, you brought us to this whole person health perspective, which I think is very important. And I think you mentioned something about, like, there's a lot of uncertainty going on. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of, we're in the midst of the global pandemic that I don't think any of us have experienced anything similar. But you mentioned something about that leaders can actually help create more certainty, and by creating this sense of purpose and mission and communicate, and how do we connect, how do we kind of engage better to at least, you know, focus on what we can control and what we can clarify, and how do we, touches on what Martha Helena was talking about, how do we build trust as well. And I think that this theme of focusing on well-being and employee health and taking this whole person approach, whether we're at work or any other place, I think it's a very important. Let me see whether any of our panelists want to say anything on this topic at this stage. If not, we're going to take let's take a little pause, like a little breather. Let's stretch our body a bit, drink a bit of water, and I would like to turn over to the audience. First of all, I'm really amazed that we received registrations from some 600 people, and they're coming from all over the world. There's about 366 participants on this call right now, and people are coming in, dialing in from everywhere. I think I saw Togo and Kuwait and Montreal and Austria and Italy and Turkey and Tanzania. It's really incredible how diverse and global our audience is. But I'm going to ask, let me just see, we have a little quiz for you, just to kind of break it up a little bit. So I think we're gonna, so there's a question for you, is in which year was AHRMIO established? It's a multiple choice question, and there's only one answer that's correct and only one answer that can be selected. So let us know what you think. All right, we're starting to see answers coming through. We have another 20 seconds. So is it 1999? Is it 2002? Is it 2019? I acknowledge that we have AHRMIO board members and AHRMIO steering committee members and many others who probably know the answer, so please no cheating in the chat. I think we can stop the poll at the moment. So let's see. So 39% said 1999, 53% said 2002, and 7% said 2019. Well, that's great. We're not that young as 2019, but actually the correct answer is A, 1999. So thank you all for taking part in this quiz. AHRMIO started in 1999 with only some 20 organizations. It was actually kind of conceived and envisioned in Geneva, which is our largest international hub in the United Nations system. So this number has now doubled. I think we have over 40 organizational members and several hundred individual members. So the first AHRMIO conference, which is our flagship event each year, was hosted by the International Labour Organization in Geneva in the year 2000. And since then, over the past 20 years, AHRMIO has been holding conferences across 3 continents, from Switzerland, France, United States, Austria, Netherlands, Spain, Italy, Tunisia, Greece, Ireland, and Portugal. So we tend to go far and wide whenever we can. But of course, we had plans last year to meet in Belgium. Actually, Eurocontrol was going to kindly host us, but as with everything around the world, COVID interrupted our plans. So we end up shifting virtually and hence going virtually to do most of our events now. But I'll tell you a little bit more about our 2021 annual event at the end of this program. So let us now resume and turn over to Anna. And Anna, I would like us to talk a bit more about this area of employee experience. And I think Robin also mentioned a bit about the hybrid world that we're all envisioning. So can you share with us your vision of what the hybrid working environment will look like, given this rapid transformation in today's organization? How do you see the role of data, the role of people analytics, the role of employee experience in this new future? Over to you, Anna.
Question. Thank you so much, Danijela. Thank you, Negar and Martha Helena, for this opportunity. The one thing I want to say before I dive into more specifics, and I know some of the participants really want to get into the details of what do we actually do as true HR professionals, right? We like to talk in big concepts, but we really want to dive into the practices, and I hope to address that. But what I want to say about this event is, you know, one of the outcomes of the pandemic was we kind of were all locked in very locally, right? We all experienced pandemic very, very differently depending on where we were. At the same time, very much the same, right? Everyone was kind of in the confinement of their home. And you know, the question that came up for me personally, because I was exactly at that time teaching a class in international HR. So how is this making us realize how international HR is, and what is the role of international organizations in helping us learn from each other, accelerate that learning from around the world? And I think that global learning, even though we all admit it's a global event, we're going through the same experience, et cetera, I think that global learning has just started. And I would love to see your organization to really drive that global theme in all of our HR experiences. I think this is, at this point, we're still kind of looking in very locally. There are some big themes, some big trends that we are seeing, as Robin pointed out and Martha Helena pointed out, that are coming out and of this experience. Number one, I think we all quickly realized that the post-pandemic world has to change. You know, it is a prerogative. Before we were waiting for the trends to play themselves out. This was a tremendous accelerator for, let's say, technology, right? Technology and the companies and the providers who stepped in really played their part. If it wasn't for this global digital connection, we wouldn't be where we are. So that was important, but it's almost like a given. Right before the pandemic, we were all focused on what kind of system we're going to bring in, what kind of collaborative software we need to put in. Now it is here, and we need to, as Robin said, focus on the human. You know, technology is just becoming the extension. And what became very clear to us is that the HR post-pandemic will have to be very closely connected with that employee experience. And one of my big, aha moments in this environment is that kind of a huge democratization of HR services. You all, and I'm sure Thierry and Robin and all of you remember that HR has been for generations focused on high potentials. Most of these conferences were about talent management, high potential, et cetera, et cetera. And all of a sudden, we realized, as never before, not in the language, that everyone mattered. It was the frontline employees. It was those people who had to show up in the office while, in the workplace while we all were working from home. And I think that kind of a realization of the diversity of experiences of people and how everyone contributed, that huge sense of belonging to a community we've never experienced to the same extent, where it was really a life and death issue. And where the role, Danijela, of technology comes in is that we actually, because we had the tools, because we were digitally connected, because we could track, and we can talk about, you know, the ethics of personal data, et cetera. It's a big conversation. However, what we were able to see people, because before we were not. Now we are, I'm sure, you know, our heads of HR here on the call are looking at dashboards. They are looking at where every single person is in their organization. It's been accounted for. So therefore, we all of a sudden gained this transparency on who the people are in the organization and how much everyone mattered. And I think that that makes kind of a fundamental shift in HR priorities going forward. So we are going, yes, leadership is important. It's never been as important as it is now. However, our obligation to deliver quality services and understand that everyone in the organization needs our attention has never been as acute as it is now. And now the good news for us is that we have the data on that, we have the technology to deliver. We just have to really hone in on our new skills of serving not only the top high potential people in the organizations, but everyone else. And we have the tools to scale, we have platforms to turn on, and people to consider. And that's why I think that, you know, even though we're talking about the pandemic as just pure accelerator, it actually is a qualitative change in HR's approach to really getting our arms, providing our services and fine-tuning our practices to pretty much employees at all levels in our organization. And I've never, you know, trust has been mentioned, absolutely really critical quality, but I also picked up on something even more profound, and that is belonging. I think what we've been looking at is people's sense of belonging to the organization, people's sense of not only trust, because it does have some element of hierarchy when we talk about trust. It's the employees trusting their leaders, you know, that's how we talk about it. But if you talk about belonging, just think of how democratic that particular sentiment is. We want our people to be feeling that they belong. And what does it take for us if we want that sentiment to drive our policies, our practices, and our approaches? And so I think for HR, and I do believe that this process has just started, it's a moment of self-reflection. And this has been quoted multiple times, let's not let this crisis go to waste, right? Let's learn our lessons and make a big pivot. I want this to be a transformational experience for our profession, when we can go from focusing on change management, focusing on leadership development, focusing on high potential identification and learning and development, into creating cultures where people feel that sense of belonging. And again, I said why we need, Danijela, and that's a little bit different, I think, in just kind of how I position this. The reason we need the tools, the reason we all need to be skilled in data and data analytics, which we drive in my programs, is not because we have to be more objective to prove the ROI to our senior management, but because we want to see our people. And if we are managing, like your organization, and if we are managing hundreds and thousands and millions sometimes of people around the world, the only way we're going to know them is if we have these very powerful tools deliver the information to us. And I think that we never should be forgetting that our ultimate goal, and the reason we have to be skilled, we have to be proficient in technologies and data, is not for technology's sake, is not just for, you know, being competitive in very competitive markets, but because we have to preserve the humanity of the workplace. We want our people to belong. We want to understand what their challenges are, and we want to deliver the services that we can provide in the right time and in the right place. So, so that's kind of that very humane message that I personally got out of this experience, sitting myself in New York City, that was like the epicenter of an epidemic in the United States, and now looking around the world. Our job has just started, and I'm really, really happy that we can now put the rigor of analytics, the efficiencies of technology to serve human beings, and make sure that we, once we get through it, we can build back much, much better. But the work for HR as a global community is just starting. Thank you.
Wow, Anna, I feel I cannot do justice to I just need a moment to take all that in. Thank you so much. That was very, very, very inspiring, very uplifting, very encouraging also for all of us in HR professions, because sometimes we do feel it's a thankless job, but I think it's really exciting. I really like your aha moment also caught my ear, this huge democratization of HR services. I just think that's a very, very important thing, and I think this whole push for more transparency, and I like very much that, you know, data is not there just for us to like be feeding the tools and populating programs, but really for it to work for us. And I like this idea of everybody needs to be seen, and for HR leaders out there, or especially in our multi sector, multi-location organizations. It is not easy. It's not even easy if you're in the same building, but this is where some of these tools can actually help us with this fundamental shift in how we approach people. And so I think it's encouraging that we do have the tools, we have the data, it's just focus is on us and what do we do with that. So belonging, I think the word belonging is a really a key word and really plays upon on everything we've said earlier. So that's going to be our next part. But let me just turn to our panelists to see if anybody wants to add something to what Anna just shared. Martha Helena?
Oh, thank you, Danijela. No, I couldn't agree more with Anna. I think the human part has come loud and clear, particularly with all the technology that has come to our table. I think we would not be here today with all what has been done, and it has really changed our world. But also, I think it has also opened options for a number of groups that did not have access, like people with disabilities and others. So I really feel that it's brought other dimensions that we were not thinking and has forced us really, really to be and drive this swiftly. So thank you, Anna, for bringing that up.
Thank you, Martha Helena. Does anybody else from the panel wish to react?
Can I just say something?
Of course.
Martha Helena, this is such an important point. Actually, in many ways, this medium made it a lot more inclusive, because when we get into the room together, in boardrooms, I'm sure Thierry, Robin, you've been sitting in the boardrooms, there's this kind of sense of hierarchy, priority, whoever sits where, there's all of that signaling that's going on. But then when we're on the screen, everyone gets the same size box, so how do we leverage that experience of being, sharing? You have the same box, Thierry, as your board chair or your CEO. And so that's one element of kind of democratization. But the other, Martha Helena, that is so important is the accessibility. Just to give you one example, we are a very global university, and I have a very global classroom. And one of my students shared with me, she's graduating this year in a master's degree in HR, that she's got disabilities, and she never thought that she could be a leader because she was physically constrained, and what she could do, what kinds of meetings she could attend, et cetera, et cetera. And this particular year allowed her to step up and be the leader that she always wanted to be, but could not. And it just really opened my eyes on how do we keep what we've learned, move on, but how do we provide people with the same level of access and availability that some of us benefited from? So there's a lot of opportunity for us to approach it in a very sensitive and a very focused way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this notion of accessibility and belonging, and how democratic these sentiments are, and how welcome they are. I think that's excellent. So let me now turn over to Thierry, who can perhaps talk to us more about the evolving role of people management and HR as we are working to enable the future of work. So Thierry, why, in your view and your experience, why does diversity, belonging, inclusion matter? And what are the concrete interventions people and organizations must implement to ensure this becomes the part of the DNA of doing business? And what is the hidden cost of doing nothing?
Thank you, Danijela. Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, and happy International HR Day. I'm very proud to have the chance to exchange with you today. It's a very large question, Danijela, so we need the rest of the day in order to answer such a question. So I will just try to give you some elements of reflection, maybe starting with the Airbus purpose. I think it sounds something, especially for the United Nations. Our purpose at Airbus is we pioneer sustainable aerospace for a safe and united world. It means a lot. It means, of course, our responsibility towards the world. It means our responsibility towards safety and sustainability. It means our responsibility towards people. And being united is something which is very important at Airbus, because this is the construction of Airbus. We have been existing for 50 years, so we are still a young company. At least I'm older than the company. And somewhere Airbus has demonstrated that starting as a small kid became a big actor in the world, just because we were able to be pioneering technologies, taking risk, and also facing big companies, and I think especially about a big giant on the other side of the Atlantic, which was big already when we were very small. And finally, we were able to grow and to do something, certainly because we were doing our best to care about our people. And this is something which looks like very trivial and classical, but I really think it's extremely strong at Airbus. And when we are talking about the sense of belonging, for example, that Anna just mentioned before, every time we do our engagement surveys, this is always the best score, the best scoring that we can get. So the sense of belonging of the Airbus people is super high. And this is, of course, animated by passion and responsibility. So being a leading employer for its product means also being a leading employer of choice for the people. And of course, it's very important for us in terms of attractiveness, but it's also very important for us in terms of retention. And we have always been very proud to say that the level of attrition at Airbus was super low, maybe sometimes too low, because the people were staying for their life in the company, and certainly because we were able to give them the chance to exist and to develop within the company. The things are changing. And of course, our company being diverse and very, I will say, inclusive and more inclusive, we have seen that some people maybe were not so keen to stay all the rest of their life. But this is part of the evolution. And I'm very happy to say that what we have been experiencing during many years, to answer your question, in terms of inclusion and diversity, has demonstrated, and we were able to correlate with our performance, the fact that the most diverse teams were the most performing teams of the company. And we have 130 nationalities. We are speaking 20 different languages, even if the English is our corporate language. Sorry for my French pronunciation, because we speak the English of Airbus, which is another language in the world that we have invented ourselves. I hope you understand myself. So more seriously, what I want to say is, in a company which has been built on the principle of being a diverse company, with very strong European roots, but also with a very big international color, it's an element of pride, and we think an element of success. It's also an imperative, because as you know, Airbus is a big mechano. You just can't deliver any product just from one country. It is not the way the company has been organized in terms of industrial footprints. So everything we do, we count on all our colleagues in the different countries. And of course, it is pushing a level of integration, which is certainly at its highest level. And it means a lot in terms of humility, in terms of being able to work with the others, in terms of collaboration, cooperation. So it's also part of our identity. And this is something which is certainly very strong, especially when you face one day the crisis that we have been facing, which is still ongoing. And I think no need to say how much the aviation industry has been hit by this crisis. We experienced other crises in the past, but this one has been just the accumulation of all the things we experienced in the past in one crisis. And our CEO, Guillaume Faury, and I quote Anna, is always saying, never waste a good crisis. So this is what we try to do now for 18 months. We try to take opportunities from this crisis. And I think it is certainly good to say that our experience in terms of integration, in terms of inclusion, in terms of diversity, in terms of sense of belonging, in terms of passion of our people, of caring about the people, has been extremely profitable to face such a crisis. So the fact that we were certainly used to care about the people and to look at the best way to integrate our people, to be diverse in our organizations, took totally its importance during this crisis. And I think when I look at the level of resilience of our teams, when I look at the level of will and courage of our teams, it was certainly based on the culture that we have been building for years, and that, of course, we will try to continue to build into the future. So this crisis is terrible. Of course, we always think about the people who have been personally, directly hit, and especially all the people who passed away in the world. I think it's important that in such an international HR Day, we also remember how much the HR teams everywhere in the world have done just a tremendous job and have made really the difference. And if someone was asking about the credibility of the HR function in the big organizations, I think we gain definitely our legitimacy and our credibility when I think about the terrific job which has been performed by people who were just dedicated to the others in order to support the well-being of the others, in order to helping them fighting against anxiety, etc. So the leadership capability of a company starts with being respectful of the people, knowing your people, being business driven, but with a sense of leadership and a capability in terms of leadership. I think the ability to drive the change within a crisis and to handle a crisis is also something very important that we have, I think, tried at Airbus to deliver with the maximum of enthusiasm and of courage, as I said. And maybe not to take too much time, I will say that this is something we should continue to be inspired with into the future, because people are joining great companies but are always leaving poor leaders. For us and for a long time, it has always been absolutely essential to make sure that all leaders were at the highest level in terms of human being management capabilities in order to make sure that the sustainability of Airbus will be preserved for the future. And because of the future, because of the sustainability, because of the zero E emission or the green aircraft projects that we are working on, I think we can be very optimistic that after such a crisis, we have even reinforced our way of doing, the way we are managing our people, the way we are supporting our people. And I'm just sharing with you an experience of a company which is humble in front of the crisis, but is certainly happy in the way we have been able to navigate through this crisis. And let's just hope that the world will be back in its normal way, but that we will benefit also from this crisis, not to do the different mistakes of the past. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Thierry. And now I learned that there is an Airbus English. I thought it was only United Nations English. I think we, no, but all kidding aside, first of all, thank you. Thank you for sharing a world that we kind of know as users, but we don't know the insides of it. So it just underscores this thing that we can always learn from each other, and people are people, whether they work for private sector or public sector. It's what keeps us motivated, engaged, is that sense of mission and sense of purpose and sense of, I think you said something about you cannot be a leader in the industry on a product and not be an employer of choice for your people, because ultimately economies are built by individuals. So that, thank you for that. And it's nice also to hear that you know, even you know, taking care of your people at all levels. It's not just a kind thing to do and a good thing to do and a noble thing to do, but it also makes good business sense, because your people who feel that they belong, that they're taken care of, they're the ones who give you their best, and I think that also is good for the business as well. So thank you very much, and I think thank you for speaking about, you know, being business driven and being, you know, driving the change, but also making sure that your people are taken care of. So I think this human-centric message, I think we heard from all of our panelists, which is really great. I always say we have this human in our title. Let's just highlight it more than all the other words in our title. I think this is not just a cliche. I think this really is getting a whole new meaning. And if there are silver linings, like they are in every crisis, in every problem, in every challenge, there is always that, you know, hope and that credibility for HR function. I think Anna mentioned this in one of our conversations. HR has been fighting to get a seat at the table, and all of a sudden there is no table, but there are many tables around. There are many opportunities for us to be involved, to be close to the business leaders, and to make sure that people management is really something that we all have responsibility, including managing ourselves and our own well-being and our own resilience and our own commitment to the causes we chose to serve. This has just been incredible. I wish we had a whole day, Thierry. I think it would have been great. But I realize we are on top of the hour. I think we can stay for a couple of minutes if everybody's okay with it, to maybe just have one quick kind of like a 30-second round to all our panelists to give us some concluding remarks and to maybe just sort of tell us, you know, what are you optimistic about? I think I'm walking away with a lot of optimism and energy. But what are you optimistic about for the new future and the role of HR? How do we want to be? I'm going to start with you, Robin.
Oh, thank you, Danijela. I'm really optimistic about the future role of HR, actually, particularly in the way that we're all stepping up to the mark to really lead from a resilience perspective and create environments which are, I want to call environments where teams and individuals can feel psychologically safe to really express their ideas, to feel included, and to really do their best.
Thank you very much. Anna?
I actually want to drill in on the skills. Now that we all agreed on the human, we do need to be much more technology and analytics capable. I mean, the only way we're going to be driving that future is that we can stand up and speak the language. And there's a whole new area of HR that's emerging, which is HR analytics, HR technology, et cetera. And we need to be the masters of it. We need to be the masters of the tools. And so I want to encourage us all to continue to learn and also get together in these types of sessions and share. I think sharing, connecting with each other is what HR should be so good at. Thank you, Danijela. Thank you, Nigar. Thank you, Martha Helena, for organizing it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thierry, any final thoughts from your side?
No, thank you again for the opportunity. I think it's good to see that we are optimistic about the future. We do think that the organizations are evolving. We are talking about the sense of belonging, but we should think about the sense in itself. So we work because there is a purpose, because there is a sense, because we have a contribution, because there is an added value, and the fact that the people at work and not only from home, because I really think that after the crisis, it will be good also to see more and more people being back to the workplace, even if we have been learning from the hybrid working approach. It's good to have in mind that the people can feel what is their own contribution. That's our role. I think we are catalysts of change and transformation, and we are certainly the ones who can help the people just finding what is their contribution to get the best contribution. So optimistic, of course.
Thank you very much. And Martha Helena, you opened up, so I would like to give you a closing word. Any final thoughts from you?
Thank you, Danijela, and it's been a real pleasure to be with such distinguished panelists, but also to have, I've been looking at the attendees, and I must admit there's a wealth of participants from around the world. So it's unfortunate we can't see you, but I'm sure you're still there. And yes, I'm optimistic, like Robin, Anna, and Thierry. I think we would like to have 24 hours a day to take utmost opportunity of what we have here. I think my message is we may not always get it right, but let's give it a try and learn along the way, and be frank that if we don't have the answers, we still will continue and persevere and go forward. And I think we just have to be ready for the next global crisis we have. I think this has showed us that we have always needed to be ready and step to the challenge. And I think it's the first time that HR departments have also been affected. And so it has been also important for the HR heads to also take care of those teams that were so important in helping others. And I think that is something that sometimes we underestimated that importance. But the future looks really, really bright. Here it's spring. And I think the future is like a garden of tulips. So let's give it a try. So thank you, Danijela, and thank you, AHRMIO.
Oh, thank you so much to all of our panelists for being genuine, for keeping it real, for sharing the struggles and the hopes, because I think, you know, we have to take it wholesale in life, you know, like a whole person approach, whole organization approach, however we look at it, we are whole, and everything we deal with has ups and downs, but I think we do persevere. We, you know, number of troubles that we have successfully overcome is 100%, right? We're still here, we're still plowing at, and we get inspired. I hope we also heard the message that, you know, commitment to continuous learning is not just sort of a competence in our competency books, but it is something that we keep evolving, we keep learning. As a graduate of a program that Anna is now leading some years back, I'm actually motivated to start again, because I do think there's a lot of new tools, a lot of new language, new parlance that we can be learning to equip ourselves better, while at the same time honing on our softer skills as well, our humanity, our empathy, and our, you know, and being okay with being vulnerable, being okay with sometimes not having all the answers. I think there's part of joy in that as well. So I'm optimistic that we have great leaders and great thinkers like our 4 distinguished panelists. I cannot thank you enough for your time, for your openness, for just being willing to engage and share with us. So, and I want to thank to our audience coming in from all over the world. I think I looked around some 200 different organizations, UN system, European organizations, World Fish Institute. I think they were from all over the world, which I think speaks to this common challenge, this commonality that we actually have, because people are people, right? I do want to thank David Raymond from Eurocontrol, who you do not see here on the little box, but this event would have not been possible without his amazing help in making sure technology is actually serving us. So thank you very much, David. I would like also to thank the AHRMIO board chair, Negar Rafikian, who visited with us, for her leadership, for her guidance, and also to my fellow board members and steering committee members of AHRMIO who helped to make this event possible. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you enjoyed your reflections, and I hope you walk away being inspired and moved to action, because I think if one message came clear is that we all have a role to play. We can't just wait for our leaders to give us the answers and solve problems. We all leaders, I think Martha Helena said at the beginning, we all have a piece of responsibility and all of that. And I think that's both democratic and inspiring in the same time. We also invite you to share a brief story with us of any of takeaways that you had from this event. Go on LinkedIn, go on Twitter, please use a hashtag AHRMIO and hashtag International HR Day, and let us know what you think. There will be a feedback session also, which you will receive. So there's a very short one, but please do let us know what you want to hear more about. I think we opened up many drawers and many folders, but there are many other issues we can dive a little bit deeper into, certainly belonging and data and privacy and leadership and many other things that came up today. So we'll appreciate hearing from you. Shaping the new future, as our theme today says, start with imagining the future we want and how we build it from HR. And what a better way to imagine the new future than together with some of the most brilliant minds in the world, and not just our panelists, but I'm sure also among our audience, there are change makers out there. So do stay tuned. The 2021 AHRMIO virtual conference will take place in the fall. Dates are yet to be announced, but sometime September, October, so please stay tuned. The theme is inclusive, humble, and courageous leadership. And I think that those are like the 3 words that our board chair and I, when we discussed, we thought about how we make an umbrella where we can put so many of these important issues under. So this is what we came about. Thank you again for joining us. We will share the recording with you so that you can share it also with your colleagues. And please be well, please take care of yourself and of one another. Thank you so very much.